Okay, NVR reflections, these are pretty simple actually. You will probably come across these in some of your other questions, so you might see them in like a series question or any other types of question. You often find that things are reflected across a line sometimes, but you can also have it as just its own question, which is great if you find that in the exam, because these are very simple to do. I'll just show you how to do them. So if we quickly read through some of the guidance that we've given in this guide sheet. First of all, it says, it's one of the NVR properties called symmetry. So like you might have seen in the previous, I think it was similarities or the odd one out video that I did, one of the properties that we were going through was symmetry, and it helped us find out what the answer was to one of our questions. So here are some of the things to watch out for when you're solving reflection questions. So obviously you want to make sure that when you're reflecting it, it's going to be the same size. If it's suddenly getting bigger, that's not a reflection, that's an enlargement. You want to make sure that you're doing it across the right line. So if it's a vertical line like this, then you obviously reflect it this way. But if sometimes it will give you a horizontal line, then you want to reflect it that way. And sometimes actually it won't give you a line at all, and it will just say reflect it, and then the answer options will only have either a vertical or horizontal reflection. So for example, I've seen before where it's reflected across this line, but it doesn't really tell you that. The only way you can figure that out is because there is no other answer option that would suit it unless it's reflected this way, you know? There is nothing that mimics this, and then people think that maybe the question is wrong, but it's just asking you to reflect it across the other line. So just be careful for those ones. Third and fourth, it says to just make sure that you're changing the shading correctly when you're reflecting it. I think most people will be fine with this. As you can see, they just go to the opposite direction if you're reflecting something. And the last one is all other shapes will be flipped over. So same thing here. This is a symmetrical shape, that's the reason why it looks exactly the same here. But if it was a triangle like that, then it would be reflected. And the way to think about reflections is just think about what you'd see in a mirror. So yeah, let's have a look. Okay, so there's a reflection across a diagonal line. This is a very rare option that you'll get, but it's the same idea. Okay, although it's a bit complicated. What's happening with the reflection, right, is you're basically starting from the nearest points, right? So you reflect these 2 points across the line, and that's how you get this straight line. And when you're doing it across a diagonal line, you do the same thing. You just reflect it across the line, and this is a bit far. It'd be somewhere like here, but you reflect it across the line, and you slowly draw it. So like that, like that, like that, like that. You know, and that's how you reflect across a diagonal line. You could just think of it as like, oh, it's rotated a bit, but that's the best way in my opinion, is doing it point by point. So if you've got a house like this and you're reflecting it vertically, you start with mirroring the line that's closest to the mirror, so like that, and then you do this line and you do this line. Okay, so it says, let's go on to the approach. It says to consider the color, number, pattern and angles. These are all just different features that we could have gone through, remembering the mnemonic that we did in the odd one out video, which is never sneak snacks into a crowded picnic. Well, I think it's to a crowded picnic. Let's carry on here. Rule out any obviously incorrect. Imagine a mirror. Pretty simple. Compare answer options and rule out. This is pretty simple stuff. Again, some very interesting examples here, which are useful. Again, you want to look at the diagonal one and these ones, just if you want to get an idea of what's going on. And again, it's the same thing where you're just sort of drawing it out, right? We'll go straight on to an example question. I'll walk through one of these, and then I'll choose one or two questions at random from the actual workbook, and again I'll show you how we do it. Okay, let's see how this is meant to work. So if we're reflecting this, see, you can see here, this is one of them where it hasn't given us a reflection line, so it hasn't told us if it's going to be straight or sideways. But what we can do is we can cancel out some of them that are obviously wrong, and then we can go and try and reflect them. So first thing I'm going to do is look at how many lines there are here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are like 4 curves here. So I'm going to cancel out anything here that doesn't have 4 curves, because then it'll be the wrong shape. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I can cancel out D. It's just basically the wrong shape. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, everyone else has four curves. What I'm going to look at next is the dots. Look at where they are. Sorry. So there should be. I don't think that's going to help us actually. Yeah, that'll be a bit too difficult. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to try and see, because I think all of these look like they're the same shape. Yeah, so what I can see here, I'm looking at option C. It's definitely the same shape. You can see this, right? It's the same shape, but it's been rotated and not reflected, and it's not even a diagonal rotation, because actually it would be, if it was a diagonal rotation, it would be facing more like this, you know, diagonal reflection, sorry. So option C is definitely a rotation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel out option C. And what else can we look at? And this one, option B, doesn't really work. So it can't be a vertical reflection. If it was a vertical, it would start off with this big side at the top. Sorry, I probably should move these out. I'm just going to cancel it out here. So if it was a vertical reflection, the big loop would be up here, but the big loop is at the bottom. Similarly, it can't be a horizontal reflection. Actually, it can. Let's have a look at this. So sorry, a vertical reflection. If we look at it here and reflect this way, I'm doing it. There we go. Yeah, that's actually exactly what it would look like. I'm just gonna have to check that the ball's in the right point. Actually, yeah. So I think B is actually a reflection. It's a vertical reflection across this line, right? You can see it as I've tried to draw out B here. You can see the reflection here, and you can probably notice the similarity there. What I'm going to do is quickly look at the other two options and see why it might not be that. So E is the same as B, except the dots are in the wrong position. So this dot is too far to the right. It shouldn't be at the edge of the thing. So we can cancel out E. And A is a rotation. So you can see this big loop, it's been moved up to here. So like it's sort of rotated it that way. You can try and imagine rotating it. And yeah, so A is just a rotation. That leaves you with B basically as the answer. And you can see we've explained it in a pretty similar way. But I'm gonna do maybe 1 or 2 reflection questions now from the worksheets and just show you how I'd go through them. But I'll do the last 2 because we've got a horizontal one and a vertical one here, and we can go through both immediately. Like we've said, cancel out anything that just isn't the right shape. So A, you've got a white moon there, which it needs to be black, so we can cancel that out. Secondly, if we're going to reflect it across this line, we start off by reflecting from the thing that's closest, so meaning the base of the triangle is going to be nearest. So the triangle is going to be pointing down, basically, if we think about it. So we can cancel out again, we can cancel out C here because it's pointing the wrong way. If we're doing the same thing, actually, we can imagine where the circle is going to be. The circle is going to be on this side, and the lightning bolt is going to be on this side. And the lightning bolt is obviously going to be pointing towards here, towards the same place. So you can sort of see where I'm mirroring it downwards. So lightning bolt has to be pointing upwards. The circle has to be on the left. That looks like it matches B, D, and E, so there's no problems in any of them so far. I see that E has a different shading, so one is shading this way and one is shading this way. So we have to figure out which way the shading should be. It's the same thing, same process if you're trying to figure out what the shading should be. All you have to do is start from the closest point to the mirror line, so which is that, and then you sort of just reflect it, right? So this is going to be this way. And hopefully that makes sense. You're starting from the closest point on the line, near to this line, and then you sort of draw that in, and then you just see where the points reflect. So we've got from there, we've got the line should be facing diagonally right. Now we can cross out E from that. So we're left with D and B. and the only difference between them two is the actual direction of the stripes in the lightning. You should be able to tell here actually. When a line is vertical, if you're going to reflect it across this line, you start from the closest and you draw it out, you're going to get still a vertical line. It shouldn't turn horizontal like it does in B. So we can cancel out B, and that will give us the answer as D. Okay, we'll do question 23 as well, and we'll also look at the answers and the explanations that are given there. But okay, so the thing that we can cancel out here is any of them. So I can see here the pentagon here has just suddenly swapped upside down for some reason. It shouldn't do that, so we can cancel out D. As you can see, the base should be like that. Now I'm going to start reflecting it. Okay, so it's across a vertical line, and if you look at it like this, when we're reflecting it, I'm just going to draw it here just so it's a bit easier. When you're reflecting it, start from the point that's closest to the line, so I'm going to start from this point and then draw out the rest of it. And now I'm going to draw this side, so like this, and there we go. So we know which way this S sort of shape should be facing. It should be facing to the right, that way, and that can cancel out B. Okay, so we're left with 3 options now. Obviously you can do this a lot faster, you won't have to be drawing out all of this stuff. We know which way the arrow is pointing, to the right, and if you're actually drawing it again, you start from the point, you draw it out, it's going to be pointing left now. Alright, so we can cancel out A, and we're left with C and E. From that actually you can pretty quickly tell, well, this little, you don't really have to reflect it, you just see that this shouldn't be going into the thing, it shouldn't be going into the arrow, because it doesn't do that here. It would actually be like this, right? And that gives us the answer as C. But yeah, reflection questions are pretty simple. I don't think you'd get stuck on these, really. It's just being able to do them fast, and knowing some tricks, like knowing which way, if something's reflected this way and you're going to reflect it across here, it's just going to be the opposite way. And then if it's, for example, reflected across the horizontal, it's going to be reflected like this. So knowing these sort of little tricks can help you do it a bit quicker. You get used to it as you do more. If you're struggling with patterns, definitely like draw yourself a few patterns and reflect them across here, and then try and figure out how you're meant to do it. Like I always say, just the best way to do it is start from the thing that's closest, and then just sort of draw out where it should go after that, right? And then that gives you which way it should be. Okay, so we got the explanations here. I think it says the same thing. Yeah, we've got some of the explanations here. So for example, E, the direction of the lines are wrong, like we found out, and then same thing with B, etc. And I think the explanation for this is same. Yep, so the reason why we didn't choose E was because this line was reflected wrong. Actually, it wasn't reflected at all. But yeah, these questions should be pretty simple for you. Get very used to reflecting things. So try them out. If you're slow at them, just practice them in pencil. Try all of the questions, and then try them again. So you want to get faster at doing the same questions over and over again. After that, you can try some new questions. Obviously, we've got some in our homework booklets. But if you're struggling with speed, or you're still making mistakes because like you're just struggling to reflect stuff, just practice these same questions over and over again, and you'll really hammer into your head like how reflection works, how, for example, you're meant to reflect a shape like this across here, and you'll know that it should be like this, right? I've done that wrong, but yeah. The best way to get improving this is just retry these same questions over and over again. It's only about 23 questions. Once you're really confident on those, you can move on to different questions, new questions.